Hi, Robin. It's nice to finally meet you. I want to thank you for taking the time today to meet with me. Last week we have emailed back and forth, and you had mentioned that you are having some concerns with a particular student in your class. I believe you mentioned her name was Sarah. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, well, first I would like to start off today is to review some of those concerns that you have for her.
Okay. I think some of my biggest concerns with Sarah are her calling out during class, making distracting noises that bother her peers, and throwing things. She tends to throw items from her desk around the room during instruction.
Okay, so let me just make sure I understand. So your concerns are that Sarah is calling out and throwing things during your instruction. When
Yes.
um, is it when you're just working with Sarah one-to-one, or?
I usually see it during large group instruction. So, we might be having a science lesson, and then when it becomes the independent portion of that instruction, it's usually kind of when I see her start to call out. So when there's an independent assignment to do at the desk or notes to be taken, I usually see her begin to call out or throw stuff. And then I also sometimes will see it before and after recess.
Okay. Thank you for discussing those concerns that you're having with me. But let me just make sure I have this correct. So, Sarah's calling out and throwing items occur during large group instruction. This is commonly after recess and when you give her a seat assignment or desk work after a group discussion. Is that correct? Or did I?
No. You're right. The large group instruction could happen at any point in the day, really. The before and after recess is just kind of an additional time that I see it. But for the most part, I see it during the note time or during the independent work time of a group instruction. So we might be learning about addition that day, and we have a 10-minute discussion as a class about the lesson, and then for the next 10 or 15 minutes they're doing independent note taking and work, and that's when those behaviors occur.
Okay. I got you. So it happened, the calling out and throwing items happens during the note taking part of your lesson, and that is usually following the group instruction of.
Yeah.
Alright. Is there any particular subjects or that you are seeing this more frequently?
I think for the most part, I see it in social studies and math, which are actually the last two subjects of the day. So we tend to focus on those at the end.
Oh, okay. So it's happening during social studies and math, and social studies and math happen the last two classes or lessons that you have before the dismissal, correct?
Correct.
All right. So let me ask you this: what is happening usually right before Sarah engages in her yelling out behaviors? Have you noticed anything what's immediate happening right before?
I would say probably my group instruction. So I might be telling them what their task is going to be. So I might say, for the next 10 minutes, this is what I need you to be working on at your desk. And then I would kind of release them to go do that. And then that's when it begins. And I think a lot of times she'll start calling out or making noises. And when I then turn and tell her to stop or ask her to get back on task, that's when the throwing usually begins. It's kind of a chain reaction.
Okay. Oh, so it happens. All right. So the calling out behavior occurs after you give group instruction. After
Yes.
Like after you have given them instruction on what
Correct.
to do. And the throwing out behavior occurs when you try to redirect her after she has been calling out. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. That could be frustrating. Do you notice anything that happens like immediately after you yell at her, or after she throws her items? I guess I should say.
After she yells or call outs, I usually will walk over to her desk or yell in her direction that she needs to be back on task if I'm not close enough to actually walk over to her. And then as far as the throwing goes, I try really not to bring attention to it. So usually I just ignore it and I will go pick it up eventually and take it back to her desk. But I try not to bring attention to it because in the past, when I've made her get up and go get it, it turns into an even bigger
Complete distraction to your classroom.
Yes, correct.
Completely understandable. I see where you're coming from. Lost my train of thought. So is that the behavior that you are primarily concerned with? That is, like, that you would like to change the most or mod?
Yeah, I think focusing on math or social studies really, but just getting through an entire lesson without her throwing things or without having to remind her more than one time that she needs to be doing her work, I think would be really, really helpful and less distracting to the class.
Absolutely. Okay. How long would you like her to sit and do her given task?
I think probably 10 to 15 minutes. I do think if you include the 10 minutes that we're kind of in a group discussion, it is about a 20-minute lesson, but really the time that I want her focusing and improving is that independent time, and that's only about 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay. So the behavior that you are most concerned about changing is her working on a task for 10 to 15 minutes and getting through the entire task with
just one reminder.
Just one reminder? Okay. I
definitely don't want throwing anything. I want that to stop.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. But which one would you like to work on first? The throwing or the yelling out? Or do they kind of go hand in hand?
Well, I think that if we could stop the calling out, we maybe could stop the throwing. Because usually, if she doesn't do the calling out, then I don't usually see the throwing.
Okay.
So calling out would definitely be the first priority.
Okay. I'm not sure if I have asked you this yet, but do you see this when you're working with her one-to-one?
I really don't get a ton of time to work with her one-on-one, but I would say maybe twice a week I do some reading with her, and I have not seen the behaviors during that time. No, she's usually really engaged and seems to enjoy the reading and is very much on task during that time.
Okay. So she's on task. So you don't see any behaviors during one-to-one.
Correct.
How about when you are doing a group discussion during, what is it, science or social studies?
Social studies and math.
Oh, social studies and math.
I really, very frequently do I see it during the full group discussion. It's really during that independent time in the block.
Can you give me a rough estimate of how many times you may see this behavior during her independent work? Like, is it 1 to 2 times, or 10 to 20, or?
It's, I would say, probably 5 to 10 times during each block. So maybe 10 to 20 times in a day.
Okay. So you are seeing calling out behaviors 5 to 10 times during each block.
Yeah, so 5 to 10 times in social studies and about the same in math.
Okay. So that will equal up to 30 times per day. All right, sorry. I'm just...
No, thank you.
So we have discussed what happens right before, and that is when you give her a demand or an independent seat activity. And we also discussed that you do not see this calling out or throwing of items when you're working one-to-one with her, or during the actual discussion. You see it less. Okay. How many times, if you can give me a rough estimate, does she engage in this calling out behavior when you are given a lesson?
Like during that large group time?
Yeah, because
I would say maybe once or twice a day.
Okay, so just once or twice during that time period.
Yeah.
And but then when you give her that independent right after the group instruction, that's when you're seeing it 5 to 10 times. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to make sure that I'm on the right track. And
yeah, you got it.
How about, what are some of Sarah's strengths? We talked about some of the challenges that you are facing with her, but what are her strengths, or what is she interested in?
Academically, I think Sarah really, really enjoys reading. She's above grade level, and she's always participating and wanting to be doing reading. She likes to read in her free time in class. And another area I think she really excels in is like physical activity. She loves to go to gym, and she loves to be active at recess. I notice her running around with friends and playing basketball or soccer. So she's definitely physically active and really, really enjoys that social interaction with her friends.
Yeah. Okay. So Sarah she's a very active young lady or student, and she loves the social interaction with her peers.
Yes, definitely.
What I didn't ask you yet, now that I think about it, is what are the other students in the classroom's response, or how do they respond when Sarah engages in calling out throwing?
I have some kids that try to stay on task. They might sigh or grunt their frustrations, but they try to stay on task. But I have a handful of boys who laugh and point and kind of make jokes when she's calling out and making a big distraction. They tend to egg her on and encourage it, definitely.
Okay, so then it definitely encourages. So did you see an increase then? She continues on?
Yeah, I think when those boys, start laughing at her, she definitely keeps going.
And then what do you have? What do you
Um,
do?
I kind of get just as upset with the boys as I do it with her. I tell them to stop and to get back on task. I've threatened to take away recess, but I haven't done it yet. But I try to react the same, but I'm still kind of yelling at them.
Okay, because of your frustration, and
Yeah.
I understand it is frustrating to be instructing a class and having these children yell out and be disruptive.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it
Thank you.
definitely isn't good for the other students that are trying to succeed in your classroom. Um, so I just wanted to. That's one question I wanted to make sure I got in. So can you tell me anything else about her strengths besides she's a very active um, child that loves physical activity, recess, and academically she likes reading.
Yeah. I mean, I think that those are her biggest strengths. I do think we've incorporated in some cooking units this year, and she's definitely really enjoyed that too. So I've seen her really light up when we have those opportunities in the class.
Okay. So have you ever used any behavior strategy, like classroom behavior plans,
Um,
or
I've
not?
tried one kind of group reward system, I guess. We did like a marble jar, and I tried to have them earn marbles, kind of every time we got through a lesson successfully, everybody was on task and we were doing things correctly, I would give them marbles. And then once the marbles filled up, we would have a class party. But that only happened once. And then from there, I really had a hard time getting Sarah to stay on task. And she was kind of keeping the class from earning those marbles, along with some of the other boys. But she definitely had a big role in why they weren't earning the reward.
How did your classmates feel about that?
I think they were frustrated. They didn't really outwardly express it in the moment. I tried not to draw a lot of attention to the fact that the jar wasn't getting filled, but they were still, laughing at her and saying things during her behaviors, but nothing specifically about the marble system.
Okay. Did it seem to affect Sarah at all that she had ruined?
Not really. No.
No, it didn't phase her. Okay. Well, maybe we can come up with some things together on what she is interested in and that we can use that will be reinforcing for her.
I would love that.
Yeah. So I think is that all do you have any other concerns that you would like to
I think
touch
we really
on?
covered kind of the most important things.
Okay. So your overall goal is that you want Sarah to sit for 10 to 15 minutes during independent work, independent large group, like everyone sitting during your
Yes.
social studies or math. Which one?
I
Or
think both are important. I
okay,
think if I
we
had
could
to
do
pick one
both.
right now, I'd probably say math.
Math. Okay, let's start with maybe one math. Math, you would like to?
Yeah.
All right, and you would like to see Sarah sit for 10 to 15 minutes with only be given one reminder to stay on task.
Yes.
Okay. And how many reminders are you now giving her? Estimate.
Probably 5 to 10.
5 to 10. Okay. Do you think I have some of these charts here. Do you think that there would be any way you could keep track of how many times you have to remind her or redirect her during that work period?
Yes, I definitely think if I had a chart or something to record it on, yeah, I could definitely do that.
Yeah. Well, I definitely have one. that I've used in the past with this, and it was successful.
Okay.
And easy, very easy to, do.
Okay.
Would you be the one collecting that, or?
Yeah, I don't have an aide in there full time, so I would definitely be the one taking the information.
Okay. Alright. So that sounds good. So, how do you feel about what we have discussed today? Because I'm excited to be a part of
Yeah,
this.
I think it sounds good. I think, you know, watching or taking this information, for the next week or so, I think would be really good so we can kind of see where we're at and hopefully come up with some great strategies to help her.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I hope I could help you do that. So, when's a good time for me to come and observe Sarah in your classroom?
I think later in the week would probably be better. Maybe like Thursday or Friday.
Okay. How about this coming Thursday?
Okay, that could work.
Um,
Our math is about 1:15.
1:15?
Yeah, we about 1:15 to 1:45 ish.
So how about I come for like 1 o'clock, just so I could, before,
Sure.
or would that be a distraction?
No, that would be great.
Alright, so I'll come for 1 o'clock on this coming Thursday, correct?
Okay.
And I will observe Sarah and kind of see where we're at.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah.
And until then, alright, so after we observe her, after I come to observe her, I would like to meet with you
Okay.
to discuss some things that I have noticed and maybe some things that you are noticing. When would be a good time for that?
I'm not available next Monday, but I could do maybe Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay. How about we do Wednesday? Because that gives us, you'll be able to. Actually, Tuesday works.
Okay.
That way
okay.
you'll have this all week, and then that'll be good.
Perfect. Tuesday works. Then do you want to do like 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock's perfect for me.
Okay.
So until we meet again, I would like you to. Here's the chart that I would like you to use to, collect data, I guess, on how many times she's calling out.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely do that.
And also, if you can kind of look for some things or come up with some ideas of what could be reinforcing for her.
Okay. I can do that. Yeah. Kind of make a list of what she's been playing with and working on this week.
Yeah, because maybe in the future we could come up with some strategies that can be used.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can definitely do that. Awesome.
Okay. Well, here's my phone number, and I will email you a report on the meeting that we just had. And please feel free to contact me at any point from now until Thursday, and then we'll talk Thursday, and then from Thursday till the next time we meet that following Tuesday. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for all of your help. I really appreciate it.
Alright, thank you. Bye.